We know it's difficult to keep up with all the agreements and treaties that governments make, especially since this government doesn't tell its citizens about them. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure that most other governments don't do much better with that either. In 1999, the United States and 56 other participating states of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or the OSCE, signed a charter in Istanbul that is another intentionally ignored key to understanding the war in Ukraine. The OSCE is the world's largest regional security organization. They claim they engage in political dialogue and is a forum for political dialogue on a wide range of security issues. There are 57 OSCE member states that cover 3 continents, North America, Europe, and Asia. The policies the OSCE deliberates over include security issues like arms control, terrorism, good governance, energy, security, human trafficking, democratization, media freedom, and national minorities that affect more than 1 billion people. That's what they say on paper and what they say they do on their website anyway. But the 1999 Istanbul Charter, signed by all the member states, says that countries should be free to choose their own security arrangements and alliances, but it specifies that in doing so, countries, quote, will not strengthen their security at the expense of the security of other states, end quote. Now, this charter was raised as the rationale for Russia mobilizing troops inside its border in response to U.S. and its Western allies expanding NATO eastward since the Cold War and refusing to rule out granting membership to Ukraine. NATO says, of course, that it's a defensive alliance that's open to new members, but can we be honest, and we always are here on this show, and point out that Russia was not doing anything in Ukraine or anywhere else to put NATO on the defensive. This issue of the charter being violated was raised by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in February when he had a phone conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He said, "Our Western colleagues are simply trying not even to ignore, but to consign to oblivion this key principle of international law agreed in the Euro-Atlantic space," Lavrov said at the time. "We will insist on an honest conversation and an honest explanation of why the West doesn't want to fulfill its obligations or wants to meet them only selectively to its own advantage." See, Lavrov had written to the United States, Canada, and a number of governments on January 28th to ask them urgently to explain how they intended to fulfill this commitment to the principle of indivisible security that they all agreed to in the 1999 OSCE Istanbul Charter. What Russia received instead of answers to their questions and dialogue about the West holding up its end of the charter agreement were U.S. and NATO demands that Russia pull back troops from inside its own borders. This happened in February, right around the same time that Biden started claiming that Russia was going to invade Ukraine any day now. The whole time, Russia was trying to get the U.S. to adhere to the OSCE charter that the U.S. signed, but the U.S. was really just pushing for this war. So today, when Chinese President Xi Jinping announced a global security initiative that upholds the principles of indivisible security, it's odd that Reuters, the same outlet that reported Russia's Lavrov trying to get the U.S. to adhere to the OSCE charter in February, they characterize the idea of indivisible security as some mysterious thing that Xi just came up with. It is literally what the 1999 OSCE Charter is based on. Reuters goes on to inexplicably say that Xi's proposal is a concept also endorsed by Russia, but they said that Xi gave no details on how it would be implemented. Well, not only is the concept endorsed by Russia, it was an agreement signed by 57 member countries of the OSCE in 1999. And Xi doesn't have to give details on how the proposal would be implemented because those details already exist in the 1999 OSCE Istanbul Charter. China is not a member state of the OSCE, by the way, but they're raising the issue of the organization's violation of its own charter to not only point out the hypocrisy of the U.S., EU, and NATO and this horror they created in Ukraine, but also to make their case for defending themselves against further U.S. imperialist aggression in Taiwan and the South China Sea. Li Mingzhang, associate professor at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore, is quoted in the Reuters article today saying, if China deems actions by the U.S. and its allies on Taiwan or the South China Sea as disregarding its security concerns, it could evoke the concept of indivisible security to claim the moral high ground in retaliation. I say defense, but okay. And Wang Jiangju, a law professor at the City University of Hong Kong, said by evoking the concept of indivisible security, which had originated from Europe, China could hope to make its actions in defense of its core interests appear more legitimate to other countries. Security for Europe, but not for Russia or China, right? Xi Jinping says that's not how it should work, and it should not. As Lavrov tried to point out but was completely dismissed by Anthony Blinken, no country should have their security concerns violated by another country claiming defense while building up their security. The 1999 OSCE Istanbul Charter says that. But the way the Reuters article reads, China has concocted some strange thing no one has ever heard of that they're being tight-lipped and secretive about, even though Xi Jinping is literally using language and concepts already established by the OSCE and agreed to by the U.S. and its Western allies. But the U.S. will ignore China's invoking the indivisible security model of the OSCE and claim it's sneaky Chinese provocation, just like they did with Russia regarding Ukraine. Follow Lukman Nation on patreon.com/LukmanNation for lots of great content.